This webinar will not be a fuck you, pay me webinar where I dangle a golden carrot behind a paywall and say, if you have a signature workshop, you're going to make a ton of money and have abs and a Ferrari, but all you have to do is pay and then you'll get all the secrets. That's not what this is. We are going to cover why you might need a signature workshop, what that is. We're actually going to think, how do we come up with yours? Basically, the name of the big idea and how do we actually come up with it in the workshop today. We're going to work with some volunteers. And then I'm going to show you how you can start pitching it on LinkedIn, which is to validate it and get some of your first leads using what I call my free to fee method, which we'll get into later. Is why workshops over keynotes? Why do I advocate for doing a signature workshop versus a signature keynote or talk? Can anybody write their guess into the chat? And for Jackie, what did you used to do? I used to be a public speaking coach where all I did was teach people how to deliver their message better and have more stage presence. And nowadays, as you'll see, I'm much more interested in personal storytelling. So that's what I used to do. Jackie says collaboration for why workshops. Chris says larger audience. That's interesting. Maddie says workshops are more actionable. Absolutely. Gabby Rosley or somebody else says more interactive, easier to do versus keynotes. Nikki says contextualization versus just info delivery. Ahmed says deeper connection. All of these are spot on, but there's a bigger reason and one that may be more practical that I'll tell you guys about right now. One of my best gigs ever was in France, in Cannes. And this was just before my daughter was born. My wife was 36 weeks pregnant, and I flew to France for 3 days. And I delivered this workshop in front of 231 people at this really amazing five-star hotel. They paid me 10K to do it, plus all the travel and expenses covered. It was like a dream gig. But this was actually a workshop, even though I'm on a stage. This was my signature workshop, my old one called The Powerful Pitch. I was not asked to be the keynote speaker. You know who was? A woman called Lovey Ajayi Jones. 4 times New York Times bestseller, 4 different books. Her TED Talk had 9 million views, podcast 4 million downloads. She had been keynoting, being the keynote speaker for 10 years at events, and had 1.2 million followers over social media and a shout out from Oprah. How many people can compete with a resume like that who are on the call right now? Hmm? Anyone? Not me, lol, not yet, not yet. Yes, Ahmed, not yet. That's the goal. So that's what I want to say is that keynotes are in your future. You will do a keynote one day. But in order to break into the speaking world, what you really want to focus on is a workshop because there are much more workshop speakers at every event to one keynote speaker. And the keynote has to be impressive to get people in the door. The workshop speaker just has to teach something. So let me tell you how I got here. As I said, I used to be an actor, and now I do this. When I was 7 years old, I got my first job, which was being the lead in a film with Oscar winner Anne Bancroft. The film was called The Homecoming, and it was an American feature film, and it was the first audition I had ever gone up for, and I got it. It started this insane childhood acting career, which lasted all the way through my childhood and made me think I was going to be an actor when I grew up, which was lovely. A year before I graduated high school, my younger brother Luke passed away. If you've seen me or my LinkedIn, or if you've seen some of my talks, you'll know this already. For those of you who don't, this was the biggest event that changed my life. Losing my brother sent me down a really bad path where I just started doing drugs and alcohol, drinking alcohol every weekend, trying to numb the pain. And so by the time I got to theater school, I was just so miserable that it was a totally negative experience. So I quit as soon as I graduated. I went to Spain first because I knew I just needed to get away from myself and my life. And so I was teaching English in Spain, and that was great. I was teaching English to pay my way, and I went, oh my God, I love teaching. I love helping people. And it's like acting because I can use these skills at the front of the room. But I was still not dealing with my issues. I wasn't going to therapy. I wasn't talking about it, and I was staying closed off, and I was trying to run away from myself. And then I did the same thing in China, where I started an English school with some other English teachers from Canada. And that was my foray into entrepreneurship. I realized you can just start a business yourself. I didn't even know what entrepreneur meant at that time. But this taught me that I could start a business myself. But again, not dealing with my issues and just drinking and doing drugs every weekend persisted. And I had so much stress working at the startup and living in this toxic way that I hurt my back so badly that I had to quit the startup, break up with my girlfriend, and come home. And on my 27th birthday, I limped with the use of a cane down to the bottom of my mother's street so I could feel the sun on my face for the first time in months. And I just thought, this is not what I pictured for my life. So I went to therapy and I started opening up and I started thinking about what I wanted my life to look like. And I realized I could use my acting and my teaching and my entrepreneurship background to become a speaking and storytelling coach based on these ideas of being more open, being more honest, and sharing your story. Since then, I've been very, very fortunate to speak at a lot of big organizations and many of them multiple times. Many of these logos that you see on the screen, I ended up speaking for them, doing my signature workshop, and then getting a longer term consulting course. The biggest one was Wayfair, which ended up being $220,000 over the lifetime. And so that's part of the power of the signature workshop is getting in with a company that you can do a longer consulting package with. And then I've been lucky enough to coach over 5,000 people by now. It's probably even more. I just haven't estimated accurately recently. I've done over 250 talks and workshops over the years. And I won a business award in 2024 and a speaker award this year from the UK Speaker Awards. And I wrote a book called Transform Your Speaking Skills based on a lot of the stuff that I've been through. And the thing that I really care about now is my family, my wife, Sarah, my dog, Matilda. And there's my daughter hiding behind her. She does not have a dog for a face. And our next one is due in 3 weeks. So hence the launch of this thing now, because I know that I will be just completely, out to lunch in about 3 weeks for a couple weeks there. So I'm so excited for my new daughter who is coming. We know it's a girl and we already have one girl. So I'm going to have two little girls. Super excited about that. Everything I've learned over my story has taught me these two things that I really, really believe in now that I want to impart to you, which is one, your story is the best asset you have. Everything you need to create your signature workshop and to carve out a niche as a sought after speaker is in your story. And that's what we're going to try to plumb today and find your thing. And then the signature workshop is, I believe, for coaches, consultants, anyone with an offer that they want to sell to corporate or to one-on-one clients. The signature workshop is the best way to package it, leverage it, get it out there, and also break into speaking. Any questions before we move on? We've got, thank you, Jackie, for saying congratulations. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Gabby Rosley, who may or may not be Gabby. Nikki, thank you so much. What are you naming your daughter, Ahmed? I can't tell you. Me and my wife decided we're not going to tell anyone until we actually decide on it. I don't know if that's like a superstitious thing, but yeah, we don't want to get anyone's opinion and say like, oh, that's lovely or whatever. So we're not gonna tell you now, but I will eventually tell I think the world as I introduce her to LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Anybody who has a question at this point before we jump into finding your signature workshop, please take yourself off mute or ask in the chat. Say, I would like to speak, or raise your hand. If you can do that, I will take you off mute for any questions we have right now. Somebody says, how are folks changing their name on Zoom? I can't find any buttons to do so. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know how either. So hopefully you can just, hopefully we can, maybe Gabby can figure that out. Katie Rose Kaufman said, I left the webinar and used the original meeting link, not the reminder link. Ah, okay. If everybody wants to try that, maybe that's the way to do it. Or if you don't care, let's just keep it as is. Yes. Somebody raised their hand, allowed to talk. I'm going to give people just a minute or so to do this if they want to change their name. If anybody whose name is what it is and wants to ask a question right now before we keep going, also to buy us a minute or two for people to try this thing that Katie suggested, who has a question or a comment or a statement, who wants to speak up? Ahmed says, I got one. Ahmed, yes, I'm going to allow you to talk. Please show yourself on camera too if you wouldn't mind, man, but if not, that's okay.
Hi, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, how are you, Ahmed?
I'm very good. I'm very good. I don't have the way to change the camera, so I think
Ah, all good, all
that's
good.
it's okay. So, I've been to your previous workshop and now
Yes.
this, and one question that people ask is, do we all have to have a dramatic change of events in our story to make a good story to relate with people?
Yes, very good question. Do we all have to have a dramatic or traumatic? I wasn't sure which one you said, but either I think kind of works. Do we all have to have a traumatic or dramatic change in our story in order to have a good, compelling story? Is that more or less the question, Ahmed? Dramatic, yes. Okay, I think both apply. Yeah. Um, no is the short answer. You do not have to have a dramatic change of events or a dramatic turning point. However, you do have to have a turning point based on just good storytelling principles. What makes a good story? What makes a memorable story? There needs to be what they call an inciting incident, or there needs to be a low point and a turning point, or a rise from the ashes. There needs to be a change or a shift. Because if there's no change, there's no story. If you say, I went to the store, I got bread, and I came home, that's not a story. That's an order of events or an itinerary. If you say, I went to the store and I met this guy on the stoop and he told me something that changed the way I viewed my relationship with my wife, and since then everything has been better, that's a story because there was a change. Stories equal transformation. So, yes, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It could just be a moment where you noticed, oh my God, this thing that I care about is really important. I thought it was just important for me, but it's also important to other people. Maybe it was just a random Tuesday in the afternoon. But if you zoom in on that moment, that's still interesting and that's still a story. I would say most of us are shaped by pretty dramatic moments in our lives, and it just takes
Mhm.
some thinking about, but it doesn't have to be. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to proceed, and we will have a Q&A at the end, and I'm also going to stay on after the hour to answer any more questions. So, um, I showed this last time for everybody who was here in the webinar last time, but does anybody know the mission statement for TED or TEDx, what that is? Does anybody know what their three-word mission statement is, or their what they call it? Ideas worth spreading. Yes, that's exactly it. TED originally, I think they changed it actually now to ideas change everything. I think that's really lame because ideas don't change everything. Ideas start to change, but they don't actually change everything. Ideas worth spreading is such a great way to encapsulate what we are all looking for to create our signature workshop and to build our brand around. Some people call it a thesis. That's what I often call it. Some people call it a premise. I like to call it, in the context of the signature workshop, a big idea and a phrase that pays. These are kind of two sides of the same coin, or two different sides of the same coin, I think is the expression. Some people call it your association, what you associate your brand with, your differentiated POV. It's basically the thing you're known for talking about all the damn time. And if there's not one thing, you will really struggle to get traction on social media, on the speakers' stages, amongst speakers, and amongst clients that you want to work with. The thing that differentiates you, the thing you're known for, is what's going to get you noticed. It's what's going to get you to build your career, and it's what's going to get you differentiated so that speaker bookers will book you. So, how do we come up with that? What is the way to do that? The best way to start is to come up with your phrase that pays. Now, this is from Sam Horn on LinkedIn. She calls it a repeatable, retweetable phrase to quickly land people's favorable attention. Can anybody think of a famous personal brand or a famous speaker or a famous entrepreneur who has a phrase that pays, a phrase they're known for? Write it in the chat if you would. Somebody you know who's famous, who's known for a two or three or four word, phrase. Nike, just do it. Yes, totally. For a faceless brand, yeah, just do it. Jason says, start with why from Simon Sinek. Exactly. That is the name of his book. That was the name of his TED Talk. Amelia Sordell, just fucking post it. Beautiful. Jay Acunzo, resonance over reach. Lovely. Perfect. Resonance over reach. Brene Brown, be brave. Try saying that fast 3 times as a warm up for your next workshop. Brene Brown, be brave. Yes, very, very good. Thank you, Nikki. That's it, right? These are phrases that we associate with these people. Therefore, if somebody wants a speaker and that topic is useful for them, they're going to go to that person because they remember their phrase. I need a speaker who's going to motivate people to post on social media. Do I choose Brene Brown, Be Brave? Well, she's famous. Maybe I want her, but I can't get her. Do I choose Jay Acunzo, Resonance Over Reach? That's good. But I think I'm going to choose Amelia Sortel, Just Fucking Post It, because I can tell that her message is just post it. And that's going to inspire people to post on LinkedIn or wherever, right? So let's come up with yours. We need a volunteer. Oh, sorry. Some more examples quickly. Just Daniel Priestley, key person of influence. Brene Brown, daring greatly is another one of hers. Simon Sinek, start with why. And then I had powerful pitch was my phrase that pays for a long time. Somebody is asking a question. I'm going to take you off mute. Yes. Oh, whoever that is, if that's Gabby or someone else, could you take yourself off mute?
I'd like to volunteer.
Sorry.
I'd like to volunteer.
Oh, great. Okay. Yes, please volunteer. Tell me, Chelsea, right?
Yeah, yes.
Please tell me what is an idea you would have of your workshop's phrase that pays, the thing you want to be known for.
Hmm. Um, Stories that shape the world.
Stories that shape the world. Okay, lovely. Who needs to hear this message about stories that shape the world?
Hmm. Lots of people. I don't
Yeah.
know off the top of my head.
Yeah. So it can be tricky because a lot of us want to go broad when we first think about this thing because we go, I want to find something that appeals to everyone, that the whole world needs. What is really useful at first is just thinking about one particular audience and then a message that could land with them. For example, Brene Brown's, not Brene Brown, sorry, Daniel Priestley's Key Person of Influence workshop is not for everyone. It's for entrepreneurs. That's his
Yes.
audience. He's hyper focused. Do you have an audience in mind, Chelsea?
Hmm. Um, do I have an audience? Grant funders.
Grant funders?
Yes.
What do grant funders need to understand about stories that shape the world?
Um, they should pour money into stories because they shape the world.
They should pour monies into stories?
Money into stories because they shape the world.
Okay, and how does that benefit them at their job?
Um, because um, because when it turns a profit, it makes them money.
So you're arguing that stories that shape the world are actually will make their companies more profitable if they fund them.
Yes.
Okay. So here's the sad truth about corporate, everyone, that I'm sure you all know and don't need me to explain to you. The sad truth about corporate is that they don't give a shit what's good for the world. They want something that will make them more money. What I want to offer to all of you is this. I believe that almost all of you here have bigger ideals than making money. I get that sense because that's how I am, and that's the vibe I try to put out there. I assume most people here are here because they have something they believe in and they think is good for the world. The corporation doesn't care. They want you to provide something for their team that's going to help make them more money or be more productive. I mean, the bottom line is always about money, either saving or making money. So that's what they're thinking about. So what you have to do is package your thing, your idealism, into something that can be a narrow focus of profitability, productivity, mental health. That leads to more productivity, profitability. So Chelsea, what I'm hearing is this, is that grant funders, if they fund stories, they will make their their own organization more profitable? Is that
Yes.
okay? So then what you have to do, and I'm going to move on to someone else because I just want to get to a few volunteers. What you have to do is come up with the idea that you can deliver to this audience in 2 to 3 words. So it might be as simple as stories are profitable or
Yes.
fun stories make money. Something very stupidly simple like that may be the name you want because you're just trying to say, this is what I believe. And then later, as you get into creating the workshop itself, you'd want to show them how to do that. But for now, you just want that big idea to be fun stories make money. Does that help, Chelsea?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. Next volunteer, please. Okay, I've got another Ahmed. Yes, let's have you go.
So, mine are about turning job fairs interviews into offers. And I had a conversation with GPT and I got some variations. Job fairs with offers, where job fairs meet offers, job fairs that end in offers, or turning job fairs into offers.
Job fairs, but with offers. I'm reading it off the chat now. Everybody can see Ahmed's variations. Job fairs, but with offers. Finally, job fairs with offers, where job fairs meet offers, job fairs end in offers, and turning job fairs into offers. I just want to make a quick note about ChatGPT. And I'm not trying to shame anyone who uses it and who likes it and has it as part of their work. ChatGPT has no soul. I think we can all agree on that. It can
Yes.
be really good for just helping you see things in a new way. It can be really, really good for looking something up that you just don't want to really think about or asking it to analyze a bunch of information. I always will advocate not to use it for creative assets. And by creative assets, I mean communications from yourself to the world about who you are. So that includes your workshop name, that includes branding materials, that includes content, that includes anytime somebody's going to read or listen to you and try to understand you better. Chat GPT will flatten you out and make you like everyone else because that's what it does. It reads the whole internet and then comes out with an approximation based on the whole internet, basically like everybody else. So I'm going to ask you, Ahmed, to scrap all this, and I'm going to ask you some questions to see if we can go deeper.
Perfect.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Job fairs want more offers, but they're not getting them right now. Correct?
Yes.
So what ChatGPT has advised us to do is to give them the prize that they want, but what we don't have is the differentiator of how they're going to get there.
Mhm.
It's kind of like selling a workshop, make more money, right?
Yeah.
Or get healthy. I think it's the prize is sort of so obvious that if you name the workshop that, it's like, well, yeah, I want that, but like, how are you going to help me? You know what I mean? So what
Mhm.
the signature workshop and what the phrase that pays needs is something different and something clear. So how do you do that, Ahmed? How do you help job fairs give more offers or create more offers?
So I have spoken to some job fair organizers and to first know if they actually have the low conversion problem of from interviewing going to offers, and they do.
Yeah.
And the way I did it is through LinkedIn preparation before the job fair.
So you prepared the students on LinkedIn before the job fair.
Yes. Not only LinkedIn, but how to research companies and interviewer, how to create familiarity with the interviewers and the company through LinkedIn, and how to interview, write your pitch, how to talk about your previous achievement, experience, and stuff like that.
So it's almost to me, it's like you're creating little LinkedIn wizards or something. Do you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that's kind of what you're doing is that's your differentiator is you've got this way of creating these little LinkedIn wizards that will show up to a job fair and be ready to find a good offer. Is that right?
Yeah, I used to call them LinkedIn savvies.
LinkedIn savvies. I mean, we're getting there, right?
Hmm.
It's a bit unclear and it sounds like it's a workshop about LinkedIn. The thing is, we can also have a subtitle for our workshop. That comes later once you sort of have validated the big idea and the phrase that pays and maybe found your audience. But LinkedIn
Hmm.
savvies is better. Um, it is still a bit too broad. I
Uh-huh.
would almost want a third word in there that signifies job seekers. Like LinkedIn savvy seekers, LinkedIn
Well,
savvy job seekers.
okay.
We're getting closer to that.
Hmm.
And then I'm going to give you, yeah. So marinate on that, Ahmed. I do want to get to some more people, but do you see what I'm saying? Is that it's the differentiator that you're going to want to go towards, and then the
Yeah.
final piece that I'll just give you is also try to think of what only you can offer, because a lot of people tell people they can make them better on LinkedIn. So you're going to have to think about your very specific, unique thing.
Okay.
And hopefully
Thanks.
some of my feedback from some other people will give you some ideas as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm getting everyone who wants to go. I'm interested in sharing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get answer this question live. So the person who said I'm interested in sharing and coming up with my phrase that pays, I go by hold it with PM Jen. So PM Jen, could you please speak whenever you have a chance? If we've still got you here. Hold it with PM Jen. PM Jen, do we have you here? She can't go off mute for some reason. I'm asking you to unmute. There is no button. Okay, I'm going to promote you to panelist. Let's see if that works. Could you try now? Okay, Mary Alice Duff. I'm going to ask you to try. Oh, yes. Sorry. Do we have Jen here? Who do we have here as a who I'm talking to?
It might be me. My name
Yes,
is Robert Friedman.
Robert. Hello, Robert. Are you able to put yourself on camera or not?
Uh, I don't see a button. I only see an audio. I don't see
Okay,
a
all
camera
good.
button.
Let's just chat audio. I'm sorry we can't connect sort of face to face, so to speak, but we'll just do it this way.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm a branding consultant. I have a business called Fearless Branding. The name of the workshop is How to Build a Fearless Brand.
Yes.
What I don't have is a phrase that pays, right?
Yes.
So my audience is professional services firms, lawyers, accountants, wealth managers, like that.
Okay.
The big problem is that a lot of them deliver unique value, but they tell a really boring story about it.
Yes.
And
That is
so,
100% agree on the problem, and yeah, so many of them
right.
can use your services.
So they're all super generic, and I help them find a powerful story that's based primarily on who they are as people, like deep down, what do they
Yes.
value,
Yeah.
so that they find their big idea and then they connect that with their audience and
Yeah.
their audience's primary problem.
We do the same work, basically, right?
Kind of. I mean,
Yeah,
you
like
focus on
similar. Yeah, exactly.
speaking.
Like we're interested in the same things, which is helping people find what makes them unique and bring that to the forefront to actually create brands and things that people give a shit about, right? Like that's
Yeah, yeah,
basically the same thing. So,
yeah.
what I would then ask you, Robert, right?
Yes, Robert.
Yeah. So I believe every answer to these questions is in your story.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
do you care about doing this? When did you notice that this needed to be done? Why not do something else with your life?
So I do have kind of that foundational story. I worked in advertising. I became a brand manager, which is like the flip side of that same coin. I was working on some really boring brands like Coffee Mate at Nestle. And I'm like, do I need to go do something else like be a therapist or be a college professor? And then I thought, well, I'm on Coffee Mate, but somebody else is on Apple, somebody else is on Nike. There are brands that are doing really interesting things and
Mm,
connecting with their audiences, based on something they stand for, not just making stuff, right? So, and then I kind of created a methodology that helps my clients, right? I was in the food business for a long time and I thought, oh, I'll work with small food brands. It never happened. And
Okay.
long story,
Yeah.
ended up with the kind of clients I told you about.
Um, this is lovely, Robert. I would say the thing that pops out for me is kind of this idea of brands that stand for something.
Yes, yes.
Brands that stand. I mean, that's a bit clumsy and a bit grammatically incorrect, but there's something in there because the story you just told us all shows us what you care about, which is that branding is not the problem. It's brands that stand for nothing is the problem. What you
Right.
want to do and what you know works is brands that stand for something. And I
Yes.
imagine that's how you advise your clients is like, hey, pick a fucking thing to stand for. Don't just be like, we help everyone do taxes. Like,
Yeah.
say who you want to help, say what you believe in. So I'm just going to give you this because I want to get to Jennifer as well, but play around with the brands that stand, rhyme and also idea that I think that can be your thing. Because I don't think fearless is necessarily what we're looking for. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe fearless branding is just your phrase that pays. But just this idea that
Mm-mm.
like branding should stand for something, and if it doesn't, it's boring and it's not going to work. Yeah.
I think that that's very good. I have kind of three short little monikers. Tell your story fearlessly, win the clients you deserve, and make your marketing work harder. Because the problem I really solve is that these firms are investing in marketing. It doesn't really work because what they're saying is boring,
Yes.
right?
Okay. So I want to offer a little overview of a strategy piece here. The workshop gets you in the door, and then you sell the longer consulting package.
Yeah.
So, as you probably know, so the workshop should be something that's kind of more high level. That's like a mindset shift. That's just something that they can like go from this to this in 90 minutes, 2 hours, one afternoon, right? So
Hmm.
it's just like
Hmm.
opening them up to a totally new thing. And that's just like a single exercise. The signature workshop is based around what I call a signature exercise, something you can
Yeah.
teach that they'll actually take and use going forward. And then
Right.
you can kind of pitch them on the make the marketing work harder thing, which I assume has a longer consulting
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
you want is to find something more transformational, which is basically like go from thinking about branding this way to thinking about it this way. And then
Yeah.
after you've
Hmm.
seen me do my thing, I'll tell you how I can help your marketing work harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I
I
have to move
agree.
on,
Yeah.
Robert.
Okay.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, but I
Thank
hope
you.
this was helpful. I'm going to
Yes.
go to Jennifer next, but thank you for jumping up. I really appreciated that. Jennifer,
Hi, Will.
hi.
Hi, you can hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So, yeah, I go by Hold It with PM Jen, and I
Yes.
am a 22-year property manager. And my moment of transformation is when I went from working at apartment communities to working for investors, people like you and I who own a couple of doors, and the generational wealth building power of owning those unsexy little properties. And I manage hundreds of them for a couple hundred clients here in my community. And now I want to focus on enabling this in millennial women. So I've branded myself Hold It with PM Jen. I'm the PM is property manager. That's been a little confusing.
Yes.
But
Product manager, program manager. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, or
Yeah.
somebody even said perimenopausal once, and I was
Right.
like, a
Yeah.
little on the nose,
Yeah.
but thanks anyway. But anyway, yeah. And so the Hold It though is because there's a lot of content out there. Number one, buy and for men,
Hmm.
and number two, about the buy part of buy and hold, and that is just a very short part of that strategy, and everybody
Ah,
gets out of it because the
gotcha.
hold part's hard. So I
Yeah.
teach the hold part, and yeah, I'm really struggling right now on connecting women in real estate in a phrase that pays
Yeah.
or is just hold it. I talk about solve problems, don't sell them. I talk about the
So,
five-way payday, which is how buy and hold pays you. But I'm just kind of so I'm vacillating. I'm in that
yeah,
world, and I didn't know if you had any
I
thoughts.
have definitely some thoughts. It's lovely. And I mean, to me, there's a great thing that I always keep in mind when I'm working on my marketing or working with a client. I walk my dog at a dog park with this Grammy winning songwriter who like you wouldn't know, but he's worked with some like crazy people. And he once told me that when he's working on writing a song with some artists, they give him a song lyric and he goes, "What does this mean?" And they go, "Oh, well, it just means that like I was standing in the rain and feeling, like feeling like crap." And he's like, "That's the lyric. Put the lyric, standing in the rain, feeling like shit, like whatever you said in the moment of honesty to describe it, that's what goes on the page of the lyric." Now, that's not a great example, the standing
Almost
feeling like
like
shit.
writing poetry about the moment,
Yeah,
the
it's like
feeling.
you want to, what you say to me now in our little workshop thing, that's how you want to talk in your marketing. It's like the
I
things you
see.
say when you're trying to describe it actually go on the page. So what I heard, Jen, is
Hmm.
unsexy properties. That's what jumped
Yep.
out to me. So maybe that's differentiated, right? Cody Sanchez,
Yes.
she is all about making boring businesses a thing,
Yeah.
right? So boring businesses is this kind of like surprising thing that she became known for. Like, oh, boring businesses are where it's at. So
Yeah.
maybe your thing is unsexy properties, or just the unsexy word really jumped out at me because I
I
do think
say
there's
it all the
something.
time. I say unsexy little 2 and 4 units in North Central PA. That's where we need to be. And I
Yes,
talk about this work, this holding is gritty. It's in, I say, I'm into streets. Like, and I'm joking
yeah.
because I'm like a white middle-aged lady, but like,
Unsexy is kind of the thing you're
yeah,
talking about. It's the not glamorous, it's the gritty, it's the
yep,
2, 4 little units. Like unsexy little units is like it's funny and it's like eye-catching and stuff. And it feels like authentic, in general, saying the
yeah,
things you're not supposed to say in corporate unless it's like crazy offensive is a good
right.
way to go because it catches people's attention. It goes like, "Oh, who's this person?" So
Terrific guidance. I
yeah,
love that.
lovely,
Thank
Jen.
you
I would
so
work
much.
with
I'm on a
this.
heading.
Okay, lovely. Okay, bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, I think we have time for one last person, and then we'll move on. So raise your hand, please, if you would. Okay, I've got Maddie. I'm gonna allow you to talk, Maddie, and yes, let me know.
Is it working? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Perfect. Okay. Just have to say, Jen, you have a fantastic voice. Amanda and I were saying that you should go on a podcast if you
yes,
don't.
yes, Jen, for sure.
So I have been remote for 15 years, and I'm working on a workshop that is all around better, faster remote communication. Marketing is not my background. I really struggle with the words, so which is why I was volunteering here because I feel like I could really use some help here.
Yeah, totally. Okay, better, faster remote communication. In
Yeah.
general, and this goes back to the thing with Robert, or the thing with Ahmed as well, when there's a prize that's kind of so obvious, we really need to differentiate ourselves
Okay.
because it's like, yes, definitely. The good news is you've picked a really important thing that people will pay for. I've been hired to help teams, especially during the pandemic, but even since I got hired to make remote communication better. It's a problem that teams have. So it's kind of an obvious problem. So if you say an obvious solution to, or an obvious prize, which is the solution to an obvious problem, we're kind of skipping the step, which is, well, what is the way to get there? What is the thing you're offering that's unique and different? So again, Maddie, I would say let's go back to your story. When did you notice this problem? Why do you care about it?
When I was in my first tech startup, I was in a place not in a tech hub. And so I really helped to build our remote culture. This is before remote was really popular.
Right.
And I was a key person of building out our culture and the way that we communicated and the way that we helped one another to understand things quickly because we had people all over the world. And so we didn't have time for this back and forth. So I developed these different tactics of how we communicate, especially asynchronously, to really tighten up our communication so that we could get things done without having to ask clarifying questions. That's one of the first pieces of it.
Okay. Were there terms or words that people used to describe what you would help to implement in terms of how it benefited them and why it was so great and how it helped? Like, do you remember any feedback that you got or people saying, "Oh, Maddie, this was so awesome. It really helps us, blah, blah, blah," or "I'm so glad that I can finally blah, blah, blah."
Some of it is like tactics for how we utilize Slack for one. So I suppose I could potentially focus just on using that as a tool, but being very explicit with
Sorry,
channels.
I,
I'll
I
pause.
just
Yeah,
I wanna emphasize, and this is a big thing for everyone, is you want to say it in your audiences or your end users, so to speak, in their
yeah.
language. So, for example, one part of my video course, which I'm going to pitch you all guys all in a little bit after we look over the DM strategy, is finding all testimonials and emails, texts, WhatsApp messages, whatever, where people have praised you for your work. And I mean the work that you do that you want to make the workshop out of. So
Mhm.
what I would do, Maddie, if you can, is go back to your emails, to your old Slack messages, whatever you still have, LinkedIn DMs, and see where did people praise you for this and what language and words did they use? Because
Okay.
there's a lot of clues in there. It's because sometimes we want to come up with the idea, but often it's just the way they say it is the best. I've done that so many times where I've thought I had a really cool phrase, and then it just came from people who were like, no, this is what it is. The way people say it, like when you're not controlling the narrative, is often like the clue to what you want to use as your branding, is like the way
Okay.
they say it when they're just like, oh, I love this. It's so, it's like I feel like we're like a superhuman remote team, whatever, right? Like that's not a great
Mm.
example, but if three people, if more than two or three people said that, that shows you that that's how they're seeing it, and that's what other people will connect with who are in your audience. Make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
I had one client who said, I had no idea I could get so much insight from this one thing we implemented.
And what
That's
was that
one.
one thing?
Well, for them, they hadn't been doing one-on-ones and they hadn't been using async communication well. So we made some adjustments there, and he was really shocked by how much insight he got.
Yeah. So like so okay, shockingly good, or like shockingly good remote communication, and then the shocking part is sort of what you can use.
Okay.
And because I'm also, as I said with Jen, unsexy is a word that jumps out. Loaded emotional words are also really great. Boring,
Yeah.
that's why Cody Sanchez is boring businesses. People go, boring, what's boring, right? Emotionally charged language is really good for this stuff too. So shockingly good remote work, or shocking insights, or like something like that is great. Shocking is a shocking word. So I would use that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much, Will.
Yes, really, really awesome, Maddie. Really lovely work. Okay, I'm gonna go share my screen again. We're gonna get back to the thing because I want to make sure everybody can see the DM strategy. So here is the strategy you're going to use to get your first clients, or to start to validate your workshop that people actually care about it. Once you come up with your name, you're going to pitch it to people in the DMs. I recommend pitching it to people you know first, who have some kind of pull in their organization. And you're just going to say something like, hey, I'm working on this workshop called, and then you're going to give your phrase that pays. I think that it could be really useful for this type of person to do this type of thing. Do you think would you want to chat about it and see if your company might be interested? Or however you would talk to this person. I don't know, because it depends on your relationship and your familiarity. So I would start there. But if you really want to get some validation, you got to start to do cold outreach. You have to pitch it on LinkedIn to somebody who does not give a shit about you, has no idea who you are. And if they see this thing and go, ooh, that sounds nice, you know you're onto something. And then eventually, and then you offer it for free to the first two companies that say yes. And then you get data, case studies, and testimonials from them and the use of their logo. And that's how you prove that this workshop is valuable and people like it. And then you can start charging and pitching it after you collect this data and this proof. Everybody will get the slide deck, so you'll be able to see this kind of strategy. But the main thing we want to say is, before you go all in on going, this is my workshop, I'm going to run with this phrase that pays, run with this idea, build a workshop around it, you have to validate it to make sure people would actually pay. And in my opinion, cold outreach with some warm outreach is the best way to do that. So basically, I have a DM that I've used on LinkedIn that's going to that got me a 48.62 response rate for this free to fee strategy. I'm just going to send everybody that template, that DM. So all you do is you put in the name of the person you're messaging. There's a personalization piece after that. You're going to ask if they're open to a chat. You're going to tell them you're validating your new workshop, and you're saying you're doing it for free for two companies. Just say just two, in exchange for data, testimonials, and case studies. Let me know if you're interested, and I'll send a link to book a call. Send that to as many people as you can who look like they have some kind of sway in a corporation, I will also be sending you guys a list of job titles that you can focus on LinkedIn, because sometimes it can be hard to know who to send it to. Generally speaking, learning and development people are the people to send it to, but I'll send you a list of people who have hired me and people who respond to this sort of thing. And finally, what to charge. If you feel like you are ready to charge, the magic number to me is 2,500, and the max number for now is 5,000, because most corporations have a corporate credit card that they can pay for less than $5,000 without getting stakeholder buy-in. A lot of the times they'll just be like, hey, 2,500, 3,000, that's fine. I can put down the credit card. I can bring you in. I can make that decision without a higher up. So if you charge, and I would say 2,500 is the way to go, then if they like it, it's more of a no-brainer. If you start to charge more, it can be a limiting factor. But for now, just offer it for free unless you're really, really confident in your workshop, so that they get on the phone with you. They're likely to listen. And then when you're ready, start by charging 2,500. So unfortunately, sorry, we have no time for questions now, because I just want to make sure I get to the pitch portion of this thing. But I will be on here for between 15 and 30 minutes, depending on how many people stay. I will be on here to answer any and all questions after we come to the hour. I want to give you the pitch on what this signature workshop video course is, which goes through how to come up with your signature workshop, how to pitch it, validate it, the whole free strategy, how to create the workshop itself, and what are the pieces of a signature workshop that make it so interactive, so powerful, so transformational, as well as how to rehearse and deliver it, which is what I used to do, and then how to follow up after to create a flywheel of more and more gigs. If you are an executive, a corporate leader in management, or an established keynote speaker, you don't need this. Don't bother. This is for solopreneurs, coaches, consultants, fractionals, new and aspiring speakers, or people who make business content. This is going to be part of your work, because not only are you working on a workshop, but you are also clarifying your brand and your positioning in the market. That's going to help you get on podcasts. That's going to help you get new clients. That's going to help you deliver better packages for clients. So I believe that unless you're that type of person, this won't be deep enough for your work to really get the most out of this thing, if that makes sense. So I'm calling this the Create Your Signature Workshop video course, just to be as clear as possible. It's about turning your story, your expertise, into a profitable workshop. If you want to make some more money, if you wish more people knew who you were and gave a shit, I believe it comes from your story, as we've talked about today. I believe you have one thing you can teach that nobody else can. So we want to turn that into a signature workshop that you can start to charge $2,500 to $5,000 for. It's got the branding is the first part, and there's a bunch of lessons about how you do what I call the 3-act origin story, and how you weave that into your marketing, how you create your brand around it, and then coming up with the longer workshop name, so the phrase that pays, but also the audience and the thing you're teaching and all that sort of stuff. Part 2 is I'm actually calling it sales and marketing now, not outreach. So it's LinkedIn DMs, it's LinkedIn branding, getting your profile up to date, and then all of the strategy of pitching it via DMs and then getting on discovery sales calls and how to do that, what questions to ask, all that sort of stuff. Part 3 is the actual workshop. So your opener, your speaker story, which is your 3-act origin story, your agenda, your big idea plus the main talk. So literally every piece of the workshop is covered and how long it should be. And then rehearsal and delivery is how to rehearse for that and how to engage the audience, whether it's virtual or in person. And then part 5 is the follow-up, where I'm going to teach you how to use a tool called Talkadot to gather testimonials, to gather leads, to gather data, so that you can really prove this workshop works and create this flywheel effect and find more gigs. And then there's a bunch of bonuses and next steps about how you can take this work and run with it. So as I said, the free strategy is in there. Oh, and there's homework at the end of every video lesson. You will download a template and you'll fill it out and you'll start using it in your business. Homework is not meant to be just kind of random stuff that I'm making you do. It's supposed to help move your business along and help actually make this work for your business, not be something separate from your business. And there's all the templates and the worksheets, and there's outreach lists and everything I can think of to make this process easier, so you'll actually do the work and you can get farther along in your career, as well as the tools like Calendly, Talkadot, and Fathom, which is going to make this easier. So the regular price that I'm offering for this workshop based on customer feedback is $6.99. For people on this workshop today, I'm offering it for 50% off. If you scan this code, it'll take you to the signature workshop landing page. The course is being launched officially, because I'm still tweaking, on September 1st. This is the cheapest it will ever be. And Gabby, if you can make sure that this QR code goes to the right link. This is the cheapest it will ever be. And I suggest doing it now if you know you want to do this work. You will have 24 hours after this webinar today to make good on this code. And after that, it's going to go to $6.99. So if you want to do this work now, if you know you want to create a signature workshop, I would recommend taking advantage of this thing. And if you have any questions about the course, about how it works, anything like that, I'm going to be sticking around now. Or if you just want to volunteer and take yourself off mute, have me work on your phrase that pays with you, anything like that, I'll be here for 30 minutes. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm just thrilled that so many people came. So many people are interested in this sort of thing. So if you would, please say hi, say bye if you have to leave, or just tell me how you think. Oh yes, please use the link in the chat. Gabby says, use this link. This is the coupon code, workshop 2.
I have myself, off of mute, just so that for anybody who did scan that QR code, the old coupon code of workshop is invalid, but if you use code workshop2, I just sent that in the chat as well. That will work on the QR code link, but if you'd like a direct application of the coupon, then you can use that link that I just sent in the chat.
Okay, so that's in the chat under Gabby Rosley. Gabby Rosley says, use this link. So if everybody wants to use that link to take advantage, or at least go to the landing page and see what's there so you have more information, you can do that now. Ahmed says, you are impeccable, Will. Thank you very much. Gilaf says, thank you. Thank you guys so much for being here with me. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Jen, for jumping up. Thanks, Maddie. Thanks, Ahmed. Thanks, Chelsea. Thank you guys for sharing your time with me, for sharing the work that you're passionate about. I love this stuff. It's so much fun. I love seeing people come out with their ideas. And the final piece I should say is everybody who buys the course also gets 2 free months access to my community called Coaches Who Speak, where we do this stuff every week. We have a weekly call and we just workshop the stuff to make sure everybody's advancing in their creation of their workshop and pitching it and getting it on stage and starting to get paid for it. So any questions? I'm sticking around for now. Please take yourselves off mute and feel free to ask or raise your hand. Jeff says he has to bounce. Thank you, Jeff. You rule. Thank you so much, my friend. Who do we have here that says Gabby Rosley?
Oh, it's me again, Robert.
Robert, hello. How are you?
Good. So you talked about having a signature exercise.
Yes.
I do have a signature exercise, but what my experience is that if I introduce it in a workshop, it introduces the process, but people cannot come, they're not going to end with their answers. It takes longer than 90
Yes.
minutes or 2 hours
Yeah.
to actually answer those questions in a real way.
Yeah.
So is that a good thing, like expose them to the process, or is it a bad thing, like I need to give them something that's going to
Gotcha.
really move them from A to B in that 2 hours?
Yes. So I would say the second part of your question is you want something that's going to move them from A to B. I'll give you an example from my own work. The signature workshop that I used to do was called The Powerful Pitch. And the Powerful Pitch was just about getting people on stage and delivering the best version of their pitch, whatever that was. Eventually, it really became big in the tech scene. If you remember the slide I shared, it said 350 million raised by clients. That's because I just used to help tech founders raise VC capital for a long time before I ended up having massive ethical issues with that. But that was my niche for a long time. And so, mostly in tech or entrepreneur conferences, I would go in and I would say, my big idea was basically, your ideas don't mean shit. I didn't say it that way, but I said, your ideas don't matter. It's the way that you pitch them that are going to get VCs to buy in or not. And I would give lots of proof examples. The exercise I did was I showed them my 7 speech settings framework. And that, I'll see if I can pull it up for you now. It's basically a visual that they can start to use to make their speaking better. Let me just give me 1 second here, Robert, and I'll find it for you, and I'll share my screen. And this is basically just one frame, one image. Can you see it here?
Yes.
So your speech settings are 7 different
I
elements that
see.
you can control to sound different. So I would show them this. I would make sure they all understood the definitions of volume, pitch, pace, clarity, inflection. And then I would get volunteers up and have them give me their pitch. And then we would do a before and after. And I would basically get a few volunteers, and people would see how a small adjustment to each of these settings would make a huge difference. And basically everybody would walk away with like 2 or 3 things that they learned, even if they didn't volunteer, about how they can tweak their delivery physically and vocally. It's crazy how popular this was and how powerful people found it. I thought it was nothing. I thought this shit was obvious because I'm an actor and I was trained this way for years and years and years. But people, this blew their mind, and it really made all the difference. Now, it's not going to make them an elite speaker. They had to work with me for weeks and weeks to make a big long-term change. But it opened their eyes to, hey, I don't just get up there and go, I'm really excited to tell you about my startup. They come up there knowing that their volume, their pace, their pitch, all of that is communicating something, and they can control it, and they can be aware of it, and they can work on it. So that's what I would share, not my whole framework. My whole framework was called the 5 A's, and the 5 A's is what I did my long-term coaching consulting modules around. So that's probably more like your signature method. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. It's really hard for me because I mean I totally understand like that last thing that you just did. That's pretty tactical. You speak louder or you speak quieter, and
Yeah.
it's like that's not super strategic. They still whatever their pitch is
Yeah,
still their pitch. You haven't
exactly.
changed the actual content.
Exactly. It's a small, think about it this way. It's a small, simple, powerful, and memorable tool that they can use. So
Mm,
after I did one of these for the first time, I got hired by somebody who was there. He brought me to Dallas to work with his team, which then ended up in my first B2B consulting contract. And the reason he hired me, I'll never forgot this. He said, you gave me 3 things I could use in my business tomorrow. 3 things that I said to him. One, I think, was like, engage your eyebrows because that makes you look more engaged.
mm.
Slow down and bump up your clarity when you're saying the key words. I gave him just 3 tips about communication. He's like, I can use that in my business tomorrow, and it will make me more confident. I'll maybe make a sale, blah, blah, blah. So that's what you want to give them. What is the simplest, most powerful bang for your buck exercise that they'll actually remember? Give them a chance to practice it, implement it, get them excited, give them something they know they can remember and use that's small, tactical, and powerful, and then trust that that will be a preview into your longer work.
If I have 5 questions, maybe like I don't want to say a deep dive, but like maybe a medium dive into like one of the
Yeah,
questions, perhaps.
do the first question and see where that gets you, kind of thing.
Yeah. First
It's like,
question is hardest, but maybe one of the other ones.
yeah, maybe one of the other ones,
Yeah.
the simpler one. And think of it like a transformation. And think of also what is the experience in the room. Leanne Hughes, I believe is her name, who wrote the 2-hour workshop blueprint. She goes,
Mhm.
information is cheap. It's all over the internet, right?
Yeah.
You're not giving them information, you're creating an experience. So whatever the version of your exercise that would be fun, funny, physical, gets them out of their chairs, gets them moving around, or even if it doesn't inherently have that, find a way to make it like that. That's what you want to do. Something that's powerful, fun, interesting, physical, experiential. Find that.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
quick question about your
Yeah.
program. Does it allow for any personalized feedback from you, or this is not the
The video,
structure for it?
the video course.
It's a video course.
Sorry, it's a
Okay.
video course. Yes, it's an asynchronous video course. So you go through it, But every week I'm on the weekly community calls where everybody who buys the course has 2 months free access to that. So that's where I can take questions. And it's basically this format, except you can see everyone's face because it's not a webinar.
Oh, got it. But that's a
Yeah.
separate thing, though. You also just have a
I
community.
also just have a community. So I have members in the community who haven't bought the course. For
Yeah.
all of them, they're actually going to get the course for free because they've been paying me for months and months and months. So I don't want to charge them for the course. And they're kind of like grandfathered in. But for the new people who buy the course, they get 2 months free of the workshop. And then the community members, I think I'll also give them a discount for the course.
Okay. And that info's on your website?
No, not on my website, but you will be getting an email as a registrant of this, and
Yeah.
that will have all the info there.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Robert,
much.
thank you so much. Thanks for jumping up. Ahmed said, what's the community price? The community price is 74 USD per month. And right now it's kind of on School and LinkedIn, but we're going to migrate it to Kajabi because that's where the course is being held, just to make it more simple and have fewer platforms for people to be on. Anybody else with questions about the course or about their phrase that pays or about their signature exercise like Robert, or who just wants to brainstorm what they could teach or who they could teach to? Katie, I have a question. Yes. Would you raise your hand, Katie, so that I can allow you to talk? I think that's the best way to do it. Okay. View. Yes. We've got Katie, and then I'm going to get to the other person who has their hand raised. I'll get to you next. Katie, hello.
Hi, Will, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everybody. First off, thanks so much for doing this. I've been writing notes and there's been smoke coming out of my pencil, so
Yes.
thanks for
Awesome.
all
That's
of
the
the
best.
awesome
That's the
info.
best feedback I can get.
So my question is, I guess a little basic, but you were talking about how change is really what you look for or what we should be looking for when we're trying to figure out what our story is, right?
Yeah.
And what has changed us from state A to state B.
Yeah.
If, for example, I've been through, we've all been through countless changes, right? And they've all been, it's just a lot, right? How do
Yeah.
you pick? How do you
Yeah.
pick which one you focus on that gets the most value for you?
It's such a good question. And to me, I just think it has to tie into the workshop, like for it to be relevant. In the beautiful book, A Swim in the Pond in the Rain, which I'm going to just recommend until I die because I think it's one of the best books of all time. He talks about how at the end of hearing a story, people do a little retroactive scan in their brain for the relevant pieces. And we do this whether we see a movie or something like, when you watch a movie and then the movie ends and you go, wait a second, why did they bring in that mailman character? He didn't even do anything. Like you kind of get disappointed by the story because you're like, that wasn't relevant. So our story brains are looking for relevance. So if you tell a story, Katie, where you're like, as a kid, I was really good at math. And then one day I went on a camping trip and that showed me how beautiful nature is. And then I decided to become an accountant. We're going to be like, what? Like how, So the turning point you choose should basically be what gets you from like maybe what you were going to do, maybe your old career, into your current career. That's kind of a good cheat code. So because a good, quick, single sentence version of your origin story is usually former this, now this. So for me, it's kind of former actor, now speaker, former actor turned speaking coach. That's kind of a very quick way for people to understand where I come from. So for you, you want to take the turning point that got you from the former this to the current this. Do you have an idea of what that might be for you?
Oh yeah. I was an artist. I went to art
Okay.
school.
Yeah.
Realized I didn't want art to pay for the bacon on the family's table,
Mm-hmm.
and went back to business school. Turns out I'm good at it, and have been working in corporate America as a project program manager for a while now. And through all of that, there were tons of ups and downs and awfulness that I figured out on my own.
Yeah.
By myself, and I try to teach people how to navigate those situations and skip over them now.
Yeah. So what is the main situation that you think you could help people get over in a 90-minute, 2-hour workshop? Like if you went into people who were in your audience that you wanted to be coaching clients of yours, or in a corporate setting where you could work with the whole team or a department, what would be like one of the biggest tripwires, barriers that you think you could help them overcome based on your experience?
I think that's one of the questions I'm still trying to
Yeah,
nail down.
totally.
But right now, I think it's more along the lines of how do you set yourself up for success in your job so that when the bad times do come, you've done everything you've needed to already.
Okay. So as soon as you say when the bad times come, I go, what's her bad time? What was yours? So what I want to
Uh,
ask you, if you don't mind sharing, Katie, and I'm so sorry, I'm going to
no,
pop a lozenge in because of my
no,
sickness and also my throat,
you're
so it
good.
might sound weird.
No, you're
And I
good.
apologize, everyone. Um, would you mind sharing with us, maybe if it's not too vulnerable, one of the worst times you had at corporate that you needed to navigate?
This is a very good question because I think it's probably going to be one of my more impactful stories. But I worked at a huge media company a few years ago, and it was the first job where I had the project manager title. I was brought in to build a project management office. My boss was telling me, "Hey, you're going to do great things here, and I'm going to help you do it." Um, and it ended up being one of the worst jobs that I've ever had. Everything from being yelled at on a daily basis because I misspelled words in emails to being blamed for potential billions of dollars worth of legal fines that I wasn't even responsible for.
That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, it was insane. And I let them do it to me. I was like, you guys know better than me. I've never, been in a situation like this before. There must be something wrong with me. And it took me a year to really pull my head out of my ass and go, no, I'm fine. I know what I'm doing. You guys are all insane.
Assholes. Yeah.
Um, so
Okay.
yeah, that's the worst.
And then eventually, so would you say that the transformation you're maybe offering is like, there's two things here that we could go. There's empowering the, I don't want to use this terminology, but I'm just going to use it because I can't think of anything better for now, but forgive it. There's empowering the victim, and then there's correcting the perpetrator.
Mm,
So
yep,
if so empowering the victim is nice. And I want to say, like, I know I'm using loaded psychological terminology. I'm not trying to. I just literally can't think of anything right now because I'm sick.
I know
But
where
you
you're
know what I
going.
mean.
Yeah,
The victims, the people who are the victims of toxic bosses, toxic managers, toxic culture, empowering them is great. I do that a lot. A lot of the times when I work with corporate teams, people come to me and they don't even want to talk about their presentations or their storytelling. They're just like, I've got this asshole who I'm dealing with. How do I have a conversation with them, or how do I navigate this? That's so
hmm
often what we end up talking about. So I do that too, and it's great, but I don't sell the company on that because I think the company will really only pay for like culture shift and where
yes,
everybody kind of gets on board. So what I would ask you to figure out is, how do you help the perpetrators and the victims at the same time shift towards a new culture without naming names who's who? That's kind of the only way the company will bring you in, because they know they won't bring in a speaker who's like, who's the asshole in the.
right,
Yeah.
exactly,
So
exactly.
so what's the shift that needs to take place to make a workplace go from being that, what you went through, to not being that? Or a
Okay,
transformation that needs to happen on the way to that?
I think that's another thing where I need to sit and noodle on it because there's like 80 different things, right?
Can I give you something that's just popped up for me?
Yes,
It's not your fault.
yeah,
Again, using loaded terminology.
yeah. No, that's
In,
a good one though.
in that sentence encapsulates both the mindset that the victim can have and a phrase that the perpetrator can start to adopt and utter to the victim.
And it works both ways,
It
actually.
works
Yeah,
both
that's
ways.
brilliant.
It's
Yeah. Okay,
stop
well, there
blaming
you go.
yourself, stop blaming others. It's not your fault, is the attitude that people need to accept in order to take out these toxic elements of a workplace. Now, this is mine, so you don't have to run with this or whatever, and take it with a grain of salt. But when you were telling me your story, what I heard of the shift is I had my head up my ass and was blaming myself, and then I realized it wasn't my fault. And so that sounds like a much freer, better thing to have. And if you teach everyone to adopt a it's not your fault mentality, then you can then the whole organization or team will benefit. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's
lovely.
super helpful. Thank you so
Awesome.
much for that.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you. Okay, who is next? Okay, I'm gonna allow Gabby Rosalie, quote unquote. Oh, is that Jolynn?
It is. Can you hear me?
Hello. How are you? Yes.
I'm great. Real quick, Katie, that last one that y'all talked about sounds amazing. I would absolutely be completely tuned in.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. Thank
so
you.
yeah, well, thank you so much for having the workshop. I am in the learning and development training space. I have a podcast about play. It's called Play for Performance. It's to interview other play practitioners. You've been on it, and I'm appreciative.
Yeah.
But where I really feel like my story is I was diagnosed with a learning disability in my junior year of college when I was in nursing school. And I took that to pivot to go into work training and teaching others how to learn better, how to understand themselves and accept themselves for who they are. I'm 51. So having the learning disability back then was just unheard of. We didn't know about it. The teachers didn't care. It was always just
Before it
you're
was
not trying.
cool.
Yeah, exactly. Old
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
You're not trying hard enough, just when in actuality that wasn't the case at all. So I'm curious, is that a space that could be profitable in speaking, or is that kind of oversaturated now with all the neurodivergent and et cetera?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, as somebody who just got diagnosed with ADHD, I know
Did
how,
you?
yeah, I
Yeah,
know how saturated it is. I haven't talked about it much because I don't want to now enter the speaking community as an ADHD speaker. First of all, I
yeah,
haven't identified with it most of my life, even though retroactively looking back, I'm like, holy shit, so much of my
yeah,
life makes sense. But
same.
yeah, but it didn't define me growing up because it wasn't in my consciousness.
Okay.
So all the things that shaped me more or less weren't really about that, right? The
Yeah,
things that shaped me were my brother dying, were
yeah,
being an actor, was running away from home and living in abroad in Spain and in China, and starting a company. Like those are the things that shaped me. So that's kind of like what I emphasize. But in terms of your questions about oversaturated, there's no such thing as oversaturated if you are differentiated enough.
okay.
So I teach neurodivergent people how to like work better with their thing. That is very saturated unless we
Yeah,
know what makes you unique and different,
okay.
right?
Yeah,
For your thing, what I love about the potential of the learning disability and how to learn better is like you're kind of again with Katie's thing, you could reach two audiences. You could reach people who have a learning disability and need some steps, but you could also teach people who don't have a learning disability like, hey, having this thing actually made me a better learner than even people who didn't have this because I had to develop these techniques. So if you
yeah.
have a learning disability, it's going to help you, but it will help you even if you don't because it's like I always remember I think it was Malcolm Gladwell's book when he talked about how like way the dyslexics are like way overrepresented in positions of power and CEOs and like,
Mhm.
it's because like they had to work extra hard and come up with
Right,
these systems and these strategies to study and to work. So that
exactly.
made them like more capable and more
Right.
diligent rather than
And that's
people. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
and that's no, I interrupted you. I apologize. That's kind of where I am is instead of being like, oh, this sucks, I have a learning disability, I actually left nursing school and pursued a career in training others. I don't have a college degree, so I've always had to work to meet the right people or to,
Yeah.
get in the right interview the right way to try to overcome that. And so I don't, obviously I don't want to teach people don't go to college, but at the same time, even though it's hard, you can still learn a lot and you can still, succeed, I guess.
So what I want to know, Jolyn, is this a B2C offering that you have in mind in terms of you'd like to give this to individuals, or is this a corporate offer?
Honestly, I think it could be both,
Yeah.
because of how now I've taken it to include creativity and play in the workplace,
Yes.
that also feeds those people, and say those people with quotes, anybody that doesn't learn in a traditional setting. Um, my work is now is trying to help those people learn and help other people be aware of not everybody learns the same way, so we have to modify some of our offerings.
So, so could you teach learning and development, other learning and development
Mhm.
professionals, how to
Absolutely.
deliver their learning and development in this way?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that might even be the play. And here's the good news is you have those connections and you speak to that audience because you are them, right?
Okay.
So
Right.
that's what I would say is go to them and say, I will train your learning and development team to
Hmm.
accomplish your learning and development goals more effectively by understanding how your learners might be learning or not.
Right.
And then you can also pitch the rest of the company, like, or you can pitch
Right.
them on the rest of the company because they're the decision makers who bring in consultants and learning.
Exactly.
So once you
Exactly. Right.
crush it with them, then they can be like, oh, the salespeople need this or whatever, right? And
Okay.
then you have that avenue to spread out through the organization. The the learning and development as a way into a corporation is very big, as you probably
Hmm.
know. And for anyone
Hmm.
else listening who doesn't know that, approaching learning and development people and getting in with them and finding those who believe in the things that you believe in the way that you do will yield insanely uh, amazing opportunities.
Right.
I think in one of my workshops, I show a slide where I go, my relationships with these two learning and development professionals were combined worth over like $275,000 in contracts just from building a relationship with these two people. And we saw the things the same way they did and whatever. So if you're finding learning and development professionals who speak your language, who see things the same way you do, and they work for a big organization, you have the potential for a massive contract with different departments, different use cases for the work that you do.
Awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Jalen. Thanks for coming.
Mhm.
I've got Maddie again. Maddie, I will bring you up.
Some of us want to know who is the speaker who is just on because it was under Gabby's name.
Oh, so sorry. That is Jolyn Ledgewood. Is that right?
Ledgerwood.
Ledgerwood.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Ledgerwood.
Yeah, Jolyn
Awesome.
Ledgerwood. And she is lovely. One
Thank
thing
you.
I want to do as well is Ahmed, I think last time you sent me a Google Excel or a Google Sheet or an Excel file where everybody afterwards could put their name and their LinkedIn in.
Yes.
I wanna see if I can send that to everyone afterwards so we can all connect on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Um, and did anyone have any other questions?
Yeah,
Um,
I did actually. I
Oh,
had a
Maddie.
second
Okay.
question
Yes.
after. Yeah.
Yes.
So as we were talking, I understood a little bit more about my workshop should be more tactical. I'm a very
Yes.
tactical person, so that's actually something that was really
Great.
exciting to
Yeah.
hear. And as Ahmed and I were talking in the chat, part of my whole thing is like creating visibility in a remote environment. Like that's something that I get really lit up about because it's so often for things to be hidden. One quick tip for anyone here is whenever you're in something like this, make sure your full name is visible. And in some cases, put your company name there because if people hear something that's intriguing on these calls or even in the chat, they want to connect with you. So make sure that's visible. But taking that to the remote environment, like working, there's so many different things that I could speak to. So is that in and of itself a topic that is good enough for this or valuable enough to be my workshop?
Like just increasing visibility.
Yeah. Because
So
like managers are so blind
yeah,
sometimes with their teams, and team members don't think to proactively communicate unless they're encouraged to do so. And one quick tip that I have is like this thing that I call weekly reporting. I gave this to a developer I know who is going through some stuff with his manager, and they are freaking lighted with
yeah,
what I gave them, and they're
yeah.
continuing to use it months later.
So one thing I've been reading too in terms of trends, Maddie, is that middle management people organizations are investing more in middle managers these days. There was a big dry spell for a while, but there's a trend towards they're realizing we can't just train our leaders. We have to invest in training our middle managers. This sounds like an amazing thing for them, right? How to help their staff
Awesome.
and this visibility thing. So I think that's a great piece. And what I would say is there a reason or an echo in your personal story where visibility matters to you? Did you ever feel invisible? Did anything like
Yeah.
that?
I got promoted to director of operations in a small tech startup when I was 25 because of the things that I was doing that were exceedingly visible. And I managed our largest team in that organization as well because of this.
Because of the visibility that you created for
Yes.
yourself? Can we go back even further? Take me back to your childhood. Were
Oh,
you, if you don't mind,
that's fine.
were you always able to make yourself visible?
No, I would hide in my family of origin because there was so much yelling. So start with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anybody think that that would be not interesting, not appropriate, wouldn't care to hear the rest of that story? Please say, I'm just being
Interesting.
sarcastic, of course. Please say, yeah, I want to hear the rest.
Thanks,
Katie
Katie.
says, Ahmed, I think, is raising his hand either to talk or to say. It's so compelling, and I hope and everybody who can comment, if you're still here, Ahmed says, tell me more. The reason I teach, and this is in the video course and stuff, is I teach the 3-act origin story, and I always start in childhood origin.
Okay.
The reason is, I mean, I stumbled across that by accident because I started my career as a 7-year-old, right? So it was accidental that my own story had a childhood origin. But what that helped me realize is that when you hear about someone's childhood, people instantly just zone in. It's like primal for us when we hear somebody talk about a childhood, especially something loaded like what you shared with us. It brings up memories of, oh my God, my childhood was like that. Or, oh my God, I can't imagine if that was my child. Like it touches us in the deepest part of our emotions. We all go back to our inner child and think like, man, I can't believe little Maddie was subjected to that. And I feel for her and my heart goes out to her. And it also has something what I call the baby picture effect, which is when you show people a baby picture or when you hear about their childhood, you soften towards them and you stop thinking of them as a bullshit business artist and you start thinking about them as a real human being. And it totally changes the vibe. So I would say start with that when you tell your story and when you think about your branding. Your story is growing up, I hid because I was scared of the yelling. Then growing up, I did this, this, and this. And then at one point, I realized, fuck it, I have to stop hiding. I need to be visible. And that visibility got me promoted to the director of blah, blah, blah. And now I teach organizations to be visible and help their remote teams be visible so they can connect with each other, see each other. The superstars get noticed. The shy people get seen, whatever. You'll say all this better than me, right? But then we have a clear personal, engaging story that makes you different and still shows the value to an organization.
I'm like tearing up over here, Will, because of how much this is making me feel seen. So thank you so much for that.
That makes me really emotional in a good way as well. And I just want to say, like, I wish I could just sell this version of my work where like we don't talk about money and we just talk about stories. That's what I want to do one day. Like one day I don't want to tie stories into making money. I just want to teach them for the value they have. And that's kind of what I'm building towards, I hope, in my career. But this is why I do this, Maddie. Like what you and me just did. This is the moment I love when I know people can feel seen, can bring forward the difficult parts of themselves or whatever and integrate it into their work and bring it to the forefront and own it and help other people who feel the same thing. So thank you for sharing and I really love this. Yeah, thank you. Okay, if there are no final questions, I'm going to say goodbye to respect everyone's time. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. You'll get an email and it'll have hopefully the LinkedIn thing. Somebody just says, do you work with people one-on-one to train them? Yes. If you would just tell me what your name is, I can send you. I'm going to be doing that a little less as I've got my baby coming up, but I can give you the details. Would you just tell me who that person is who asked that about the busy environment and the one-on-one? Just give me your name, please. But for everyone else, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure being with you all here today. I hope to see you in the community and the video course. But if not, take this, run with it, start telling your story, come up with your signature workshop, get it out there. And I'm here for you if you need me.